And I remember in the early years when, I'd be trying to get a job, trying to audition for a job, I suppose going into those audition rooms was a lot like David going onto that field against Goliath.
Nerd Reactor, roll out.
Steven, how's it going?
Going well. Thank you, John.
Yeah. So, okay, House of David. It's the story. It's the ultimate underdog story, and I was wondering for you if you ever felt that moment of in your profession of trying to triumph over an obstacle, and you're finally able to reach the top. Like I did it. I felt like David.
Have I ever felt like David? Sure, I have. I think when, look, the business that I'm in is a tough business. And I remember in the early years when, I'd be trying to get a job, trying to audition for a job, I suppose going into those audition rooms was a lot like David going onto that field against Goliath, and once in a while I'd actually scored and get the gig, and I'd feel a kind of a certain a satisfaction or a vindication or a victory there. So I think it's so important that we all have at some point our David moments, our victorious moments, because there's no doubt in my mind that we all at times feel the same loneliness and alienation that David felt, that as David tried to overcome, I think the circumstances of his own heritage, his own birth, I think we can all relate to that. Every young person, can relate to having to the difficulty of trying to, actualize your own self, the difficulty of feeling set apart or cut out from the herd, or the alienation that one feels. So, along with the victory of David, I think there's also sometimes the alienation and the loneliness of David as well. And without one, there's not the other.
Oh yeah. And I think for this show, one of my favorite lines is from your character Samuel, where he says to Jesse, in terms of it is this that God requires of us to give what we love the most. And for me, like I take it out of just sacrificing something for the greater good. And for you, I want to ask if you ever had to do that in your profession where you had to like maybe take a step back so that something else would just grow out of that.
Well, I think in certain ways it's probably happened many, many times where you have to take one for the team, as it were, where your particular moment of glory becomes inconsequential compared to the larger picture that's being drawn. Listen, it can happen. It can be as something as mundane as having a scene that you love, that you worked on very hard, that you labored over cut from the picture because for whatever reason, because the director, the editor have deemed the picture will be stronger without that scene, and you just kind of grin. You have to grin and you have to bear it. That's a very mundane example, I think, but nevertheless, it
Oh
is.
yeah. And for your role, like so I don't even recognize you because you look so different. And so, what was that like? Just stepping into that, just either through the hair, makeup, and clothing, and when you look at yourself in the mirror, you're like, I feel like a different person.
Well, I am a different person. I mean, that's that's the objective. To become that. Look, there's an element to acting. One of the of possession. It's a voluntary type of thing. If you set up the circumstances correctly, if you're in the right place with the right people, if the silence is silent enough, if the other actors are completely, if you're all in tune with each other, then a certain type of possession really can happen there. A certain kind of becoming will happen, and that really is the objective, to become Samuel at those moments. And we happen to be in an environment here or there when we were there in Greece, an environment where it all the elements contributed to making it real, to taking the imaginary world that we're making and to really making it concrete and very real, you know?
Yeah. And I was wondering if there's like any type of roles that you would prefer. Like with Samuel, he can see things, but then the people around him is like, I don't know, he's kind of crazy. But then you also play characters that are like just tough and intimidating, like for example in Avatar. Is there like a preference to that?
No, I love them all. I mean, I think that as I do get older, I enjoy exploring the vulnerabilities that come with characters who are older. You have a different type of strength as you get older, and you have new types of weaknesses as well. And so, as an actor, this is my instrument. It's all about me. You know what I mean? This is what I've got. And so it's really good I like to keep it in as good a tune as I can, understanding that, it gets older and things change. And so the roles that I play will change accordingly, it seems to me. And I'm really good with that. But if you look at Samuel, he displays more strengths than probably any character I've ever played, right? And he's an old man, you know what I mean? But he's like, he's really on top of stuff. So I guess hopefully I'll still be able to convey, a certain type of fortitude and strength, but add to that the vulnerabilities of getting older and the fact that my back hurts.
No. But yeah, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to do the interview. And also, yeah, Samuel does have a moment where he does push back. He's like, "Oh, I don't want to mess with this guy." But yeah, it's been a pleasure, and I can't wait for everyone else to check out House of David when it comes out.
Thank you. That's great. Good talking to you.
All right, same here. Thank you. Take care. John, how's it going?
Hi, John. Good to see you. And
Yeah.
great, cool title too, Nerd Reactor. That I would love to know the history of that. That's cool.
Thank you. Thank you. But yes, we're here for House of David. And I want to know first, right off the bat, in terms of the search, the casting process for Michael, and what was that like? Because I heard it was like months until you found out, like, hey, he's your
Oh, it was
guy.
months. It was months and auditioning hundreds of people, thousands of people overall for House of David, hundreds of Davids, and I remember when Michael's audition came in. You just know in your soul this is our guy. And I got a red eye that night and flew to New York and said I want to have breakfast with you. And we ended up talking for 3 hours. And he's a special human. I mean, he's just a great guy and has a depth of soul that I was looking for in the role. And he's also an incredible musician and an incredible he has an athletic side. David is the great warrior poet. So it's very hard to find. I've directed two music biopics and I've directed two football movies. And it's hard to think that there's an actor in between those worlds. And yet he really does do both so exceptionally well. And just a wonderful, very, very, very special diamond in the rough, one in a million. And I could not be more proud of an actor and a friend than I am of Michael. And it took a long time. There was a lot of people to convince. This is his first role, but I'm very proud of his portrayal in the project and of all that he has achieved and become as we've made the series.
Oh yeah, and with this series, there's so much. It's epic in scope, and that just reminds me of just the whole story of David being the ultimate underdog story. And for you, have you ever felt? I'm pretty sure you felt this way in terms of trying to overcome a
Yeah.
huge obstacle, and I'm pretty sure that's the case for this show too.
I think we all feel that. I think that's why I've thought a lot about why do we love these stories, these hero's journey stories? David, I feel is kind of one of the origin stories of the origin stories. Like if you think about hero's journey stories, um, stories that I love, whether it's any, it's Marvel, anything, or, Star Wars, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, like they all kind of have the same engine to their car. And in many ways, it's the idea of a hero's journey. And David is one of the original stories of that. He's like an archetype, I guess. And so it's like, why do we love these stories? I've thought a lot about that. And I just think we all feel in some way that we're the underdog, and most of us are. I know I certainly was. I was, born in Birmingham, Alabama, which is as far from Hollywood as you could possibly begin. And, um, and I just think that we all have the feeling that we have a destiny, and we can step into that destiny and overcome all odds, face our fears, slay our giants, and have some defining role in a story that's bigger than we are. That's the yearning. It's written into our souls. It's why we love these stories. And so I do think that that's why we're drawn to David as this original hero's journey, or the original boy chosen to be king,
Yeah.
and I hope that people resonate with it like I do. And I hope one of the things that I really do hope people take away from it, if they enjoy it, I hope they enjoy it, is hey, I have a destiny too. I have a destiny that's bigger than I think, that's probably scarier than I think. And when it comes calling, I'm gonna step into it. I think that would be a cool thing for people to take away from the series.
No, yeah. And there's so many different messages that this show has. And another one I like is the line with Stephen Lang as Samuel, where he says, like, it is this that God requires of us to give what we love the most. And
Yeah.
my takeaway from that is sacrificing for the greater good. And I don't know if you ever had that experience of like, maybe got to step back and then just have something grow in my
Yeah.
absence.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes the cost of destiny is a big theme of the story, and this idea of at the very, of Samuel saying to David's father, sometimes the greatest sacrifices are the things that we love the most, and sometimes you really do have to give up something to chase something else, and or you have to sacrifice something for the greater good of those around you. And those are those great, uh, stories that we love to tell, and that is resonant. Like, sometimes it's a worthy thing to give something up for something greater. And any line that Stephen Lang delivers is just awesome, whether it's in whether it's in House of David or Avatar. He's just one of the great actors. He's one of the great character actors, I think, in the business, and a wonderful guy to work with, and probably the greatest actor I've ever worked with, and portrays Samuel in a way he disappears into the role. He's really amazing.
Oh yeah. Well, that's all the time I have, John. But quick rundown for Nerd Reactor. It's I love nerdy stuff. Reactor. I was thinking like Godzilla, so that's like the background behind that.
It's a cool name, man. Nerd
Yeah,
Reactor.
yeah.
I'll buy the T-shirt. Just
All
so
right.
it's a great title. Anyway, thanks so
All
much.
right,
Take
John.
care.
Take care.